I worked for the newspaper industry for 35 years, sales, marketing, service, digital media back when we published a daily fax newspaper, and it didn't matter how long it was because the fax paper was on rolls, and many of you don't remember those days.
I still do.
And what a technology that was. I worked through audio text and video text and the beginnings of web services for newspapers. I developed the online classified advertising practice for the Newspaper Association of America, and have been involved in almost every kind of media there was. When that world imploded over the past 4 or 5 years, I knew that it was coming to an end, and that running trade shows for the publishing industry with huge presses was no longer be a part of my life. So I did what every person does in that situation, and I formed an LLC, and I decided to be a consultant. So with no business and no prospects, I thought about it, and this is what I used to tell my boss I did on Fridays when I came down to my place in Bethany Bay. Cogitate, deep thought, really thinking things through. So I named the company Cogitation. It was available, the website was there, and it kind of reflected my principle, which is think about it before you ask somebody to do it. I quickly had a couple of consulting contracts, one down here, one out of an association in DC, and I said, you know, I'm not really sure about this, so I started a franchise for a computer services company out of Bethany area, and killed it in about 90 days. The overhead, the processes, the cost of hiring the people to actually do the work, because I'm a salesman, I'm not a tech. So I guess I'm a serial entrepreneur because I started, stopped, and now I'm back into the consulting business, primarily because I was drawn to helping people solve marketing problems, and because I've got a product to sell where I've got 100% control over the quality and availability, and almost 100% margin on my sales, because all I sell is me. And it's been working out okay. My mantra is listen, think, plan, execute, and then hopefully repeat. The idea being, I don't have a laundry list of products. I don't go in and say I can give you a marketing plan for $995. I really want to qualify the person, the company I'm working with, and make sure that I can contribute to them, and that I'm going to be happy having them as a customer. I don't want unhappy customers. If I have found a situation where I don't think that there's going to be a fit, I try and step away and give them another resource. One, I want to enjoy my work. Two, I want them to enjoy working with me. And three, and I'm learning a lot about Sussex County, it's a really, really small world. And I want people to be happy with the results they get from me and the process of working. I network like crazy. I've been a networker throughout my career. I'm in a BNI group out of Bethany. I'm in 2 chambers. I'm a corporate sponsor of the Bethany Fenwick Chamber. I took this opportunity. Meeting people and just engaging is great for me building the business, because if the person I'm talking to doesn't need my services, chances are they know somebody who does. And if I'm good and I share information, people give me referrals and they introduce me, and I like to work that way. I do a lot of education. I do training programs through the chambers. I'm doing a series of seminars down at Bethany on marketing and advertising in conjunction with the WAVE. It's just a good way to get in front of people. And people come to me and say, Kevin, you're a startup. Why are you doing all this marketing and spending all that money through the chambers, et cetera? One of the things I learned in the advertising world is if you budget your advertising based on last year's business, you're never going to grow at the pace that you can. So I was fortunate to come into this being able to invest for 2014 the way I want my 2014 gross business to be, not based on the little bit of business I did when I started in 2013. So I try and be way more visible than my past revenues would anticipate, but I'm shooting for where I want to be at the end of the year. Where I am today, I've got good credentials nationally. I'm building a network of people locally. I'm trying to focus my communications, my marketing communications, in a couple of channels so that I'm strong and very visible, not spreading it all over the place and never being able to catch up. And my sweet spot, I'm learning, is taking businesses helping them understand what they need to do to be successful to meet their goals, and then helping that turn into something they can give to their media outlets or their marketing partners or their channels. My questions, and I'm going to use my extra 30 seconds. I'm trying to figure out, do I need to change the phone number I've had for 16 years and get a 302 number? And I probably, I'm finding I do. And then this whole, the whole concept of communicating to folks in this marketplace that the marketing technologies that they have options to use are way different than they were even 2 years ago. And that, especially for those who market to the guests and the visitors who come to the area, their guests are in a whole different world in terms of using mobile location services and things like that than the typical business here is used to, especially in the off season. That's kind of the things that I'm looking for feedback on, and I'm happy to take your questions and feedback and suggestions. And I hope I didn't use too much extra time.
No, you're great. Are there any questions or comments for Kevin?
Congratulations and welcome to Delaware and welcome to London Times. If I were a potential business seeking you, having heard what you do and the services you offer, what would I be looking for? I'm still trying to get clarity on what is it marketing? Are you going to help me with my business plan? Are you going to help me with operations and management?
Yes, as appropriate. My sweet spot is in the marketing communications area and in helping a business take what's your goal, what are the resources that you have, what are the tools that you're comfortable using, and what are the tools that you want to pay somebody to use for you, and turn that into a marketing plan or a digital media or a simple website or connect you with a company that does mobile. I guess the qualifier is you've got a marketing or a business challenge and you are really not sure how to get from here to there. The first hour or two is just us talking. It's getting to know each other. It's not billable. It's learning. And out of that generally comes, you've learned a couple of things that will help you. I've learned about your business. And then we can talk about, is there a place that we should work together? And what does that look like?
And so is that how I would measure my outcome for success based on my one-on-one with you?
No, you would measure your outcome from success from the goals we set after that hour or two, and we decided we're going to do a project together. Right. And one of my business principles, and it's in all my contracts, is you don't pay me until we're done with that project and you're satisfied. So I don't want any unhappy customers.
So how's business?
Business is, it's growing. I've actually got two markets that I'm working. One is I do consulting for trade and professional associations out of Washington, D.C. area, which is where I spent the last 15 years. So conference websites for national organizations, things like that. And then I'm building practice locally, which is primarily small businesses, contractors and preschools and folks who are trying to make that leap from, I paid $5,000 for a website in 2008, and I haven't changed it. And they're beginning to recognize that the world changed and that the technology has come way down, but Google is ruling everything. And if you're not doing things that make Google happy, you're not going to get the views and attraction as people shift the way they search for business.
So what has been a major challenge for you?
It's working with organizations. It's getting in the door. Once I sit down and talk to folks, and we do that hour, generally there's either some business that we do, or they're introducing me to somebody where I go through that same process and end up doing it. It's just getting the name out in the marketplace. Yes, sir.
Brenda has good questions, as always. My question would be, approach a small business that is better than break even in terms of income, so every nickel you have to justify being able to cause them to part with. How do you explain what your charges will be in terms of either a schedule, a fee schedule, or some other kind of approach? I mean, you walk in, the first thing you have to know is, well, how can this work? I mean, what am I going to be committing to?
I don't walk in looking for a particular project or a particular fee. I walk in on a fact-finding mission. And it's a discovery process both ways. And at the end of it, I try and identify if there is one thing that makes sense that that business is going to be able to wrap their heads around, that I can execute well and say, we're going to do this. It could be as small as, for $200, I'm going to look at all of your digital assets and I'm going to give you a Google Plus profile so that you at least move up a little bit on that to get to that front page. And when that's done, 30 days later, they start to see their appearance is better. Then they're like, hey, what else can we do? And what is this new Facebook advertising program?
Is it fair to say that you can customize the charter based on the need after you do the review?
Yeah, the first hour, 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours is all about discovery both ways.
So that's a yes?
That's a yes. I said it after the fact. I've got this scale I'm working, which is I'm a new business and I've got 100% of Kevin. And I'm probably 25%, my time is being billed and paid for, and 75% is business development. So I can afford to invest a lot of my time in business development while this other piece is starting to grow. And then hopefully that will shift some 75-25. That's kind of my goal from here, is to be 75% paid and only 25% development. Yes, sir.
Do you find it difficult to put a fence around the expectations of the customer?
No. And that's primarily because I try and be very, very clear and candid in what they're going to get and what they're going to have to contribute from their own. And I'll sometimes set pricing to say, if everything that I need, and I tell you that we need to get this project done, comes well, it's going to be this price. If you give me raw material, and I'm going to do all the editing and the photoshopping, well, then it's going to be this price. And I always try and convince them. Even if it's a miserable delivery of the product, I try and bring it back a little bit and say, we're going to do more business together, so I'm going to accommodate, but let me educate you as to what you could have done to be a better customer.
Are you a member of the Georgetown Chamber?
I am not, sir.
But you will be, aren't you?
I thought I was here to tell you my pitch. I'd be happy to talk about it. One of my challenges, and it was one of my principles that I put up on the slide, so I'm not just saying no because I don't want to join. If I'm going to join, I'm going to be active, and I'm going to spend time. And there's only so much time that I can spend going to breakfast and networking events and meetings without being so thin that I don't do a quality job in how I participate. I'll give you my card afterwards. I'm happy to talk.
Let's stop, please stop. Okay, we have one more question.
As a business based in a resort area, we have limited marketing dollars, and we have a kind of a mix-up where we're not sure if we should target the people that live here now or do some research and look at where they're living now, like where they come from, and spending our dollars, especially with targeted marketing now. Everyone's trying to find the target customer. Like say, for instance, advertising in Pittsburgh, so when they get here, they already know us, and we're not sure exactly. Because by the time they're here, they check in and then they have a place like then trying to target them. By the time that time it's like the end of the week and then they're gone. Should we be basing our money on Baltimore and those areas, or should we be focusing on here?
Good question. I can answer it in two parts. First part is let's sit down for an hour and talk about what you don't want to accomplish. Let me learn who your target audience is and the channels that you're comfortable using to reach them, and then we see if there's a plan. The second answer is broader because that's a challenge for a lot of businesses and for the organizations that support the businesses here. Is I don't think that this marketplace is as educated about who the visitors are, where they come from, and how they behave, and there are not channels to reach them as there are in a lot of the. I've done a lot of work with convention and visitors bureaus for events around the country, and the big ones know who their visitors are. Orlando knows who comes to visit. Even if they don't know the name, they've got a profile, they know what city they're from, they know what media to use to reach them. And this community does not have a central resource to do that. And it's a challenge because for you to target people who visit here from Pittsburgh is really, really expensive. for the destination marketing community here to reach the people who are coming from Pittsburgh, and you be a part of that communication would be way more affordable. So that's a community-wide challenge. I'd love to help find an answer to it. Yes, sir.
You mentioned your two markets. Should we consider those your target markets, or is there some other market you're really trying to target as well?
Today, I'm trying to target those two markets. If you identify a third, I'll cogitate on it. But I'm trying to do a good job of managing my own energy and time, and I'm networked and connected and known in the trade show and association management business. So I've got, that's a sweet spot. And I chose to sell my condo in Virginia and move full-time to my home in Bethany Bay. So I'm here, and this kind of face-to-face networking is way cooler than talking to people over the phone and on LinkedIn. So small and medium businesses here, large businesses that need a specific project done, I can bring national talent into their organization.
Are there any other questions? Okay. What can the community do to help grow your business?
I would say there's three things that will help all of us, and the third will probably benefit me. One is this idea of how do we identify the visiting marketplace and communicate them at the point when they're going to make decisions about how they spend their time and money when they get here. The second is broadly educating people in this marketplace that the world of how people make their buying decisions for both time and money has completely changed in the past year or two, and we need to get with it. The way people make decisions and the technology they use, where I lived in Falls Church, Virginia, I walked out the front door of my building and I got pinged by 5 restaurants that had a special for me that night. That doesn't happen when I drive into Ocean View. But the people who visit here expect that. And the third is, if you think that I told a credible story today, and I've got some energy and some ethics to bring, and you know somebody who is waiting to get that 100% of the information to move their marketing plan forward, tell them they're okay with 80% if they feel good working with Kevin after talking for hours. I would appreciate that.